Self-compassion is simply giving the same kindness to ourselves that we would give to others by Christopher Germer. Hi, welcome back to Life is a Treasure podcast. I'm your hostess, Michelle Durand, and this is episode number 9. On this episode, we're continuing the series Treasure Yourself, and the topic for today is self-compassion. We will be talking about what it is and how to bring more compassion to yourself, which will ultimately give you more compassion for others as well. I'd like to take a minute to give a shout out to a listener who wrote a review, and she is a precious friend of mine. Her name is Sophia Spallino. Her Instagram handle is Sophia Spallino as well, and she hosts a podcast called Enlightened, the podcast, and you will love it, so check it out. Sophia wrote, "So proud of you, Michelle. You've taken pain and turned it into purpose that will surely impact so many. Thanks for sharing your journey and giving others hope." And thank you again so much, Sophia. You truly are a blessing. So let's get started with self-compassion. This topic is one that I continue to struggle with daily. I find it easy to have compassion for others, but when I often forget to offer that same compassion towards myself, I find myself being critical and judgmental and have to stop and ask myself, would I feel that way towards anyone else if they were in this situation? And usually that answer is no. Yet it is a constant struggle for me. And I wonder if you also feel that way sometimes. Please reach out to me and let me know. And I'd love to hear your suggestions of how you cultivate more self-compassion in your lives. One of the definitions of compassion is sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. So to me, self-compassion would mean having sympathetic pity and concern towards myself during times of suffering, whether that's mentally, physically, or spiritually. But usually it's difficult to offer compassion to ourselves when we feel unworthy, unforgivable, never good enough, and we may be hard on ourselves, self-critical, full of self-judgment. These are all blocks to self-compassion. Other blocks could be thinking that self-compassion is self-pity or a sign of weakness or maybe even selfishness. But those are just not true. Self-compassion is critical for our self-esteem and our mental health. And without self-compassion, we stay stuck in pain and suffering, which prolongs our grieving process and our healing. Self-compassion affects how we relate to ourselves and our situations or experiences. This word comes up in every session that I have with my therapist. I've always struggled with not having self-compassion. I believed the myths and I was very critical of myself, which affected my self-esteem and how I saw myself and how I treated myself. And it's a very difficult habit to break, but it can be transformed. And I'm learning how to offer myself grace, kindness, understanding, and even acceptance. Realizing that my feelings are okay and that I can express them healthily. I can accept myself the way that I am, and I can learn how to treat myself better. And you know what? So can you. So how do we turn it around? As I said, a good place to start is by offering yourself kindness, tenderness, understanding, and awareness. You can learn more about self-awareness in my episode number 2. I also believe that self-compassion is part of self-care, and I have a full episode on self-care in episode 6. To have compassion for yourself is also taking care of yourself in the best way possible. I'd like to share something that I wrote from my heart. In the most difficult times in my life, it felt like the world just stopped. Yet everyone else just kept on moving, living, and laughing. Yet I was stuck in the spiral downward cycle of self-pity, self-judgment, guilt, heartache, and pain. How could I move on? The pain and the burdens felt so heavy, I just wanted to give up and quit living. Yet I was a mom and have 2 beautiful children who need me. I have to figure out a way to get out of this depression. It's sucking the life out of me. My soul is dry and my eyes have cried so many tears that they feel dry too. I don't have the energy or the strength to pull myself out of this pit, yet I need to. I turn my eyes upward and sense that my time here is not finished, and I still have work to do on this earth. I want to see my children grow up. I want to see life again as a bright, sunny day. I felt like my life had been devastated by a hurricane, and I was left alone to rummage through the memories and pick up the pieces left, and then walk away leaving what was no longer valuable and start all over again. I had to start my life over again, but I had to do it alone this time. It was scary and at times very painful, but I knew that I could find the strength within me to make it out. I went and I got a tattoo on my wrist that says "Stay Strong" to remind me that I could do it. And that tattoo has helped me get through many difficult times and always will. It's a constant reminder that life will not always be easy, but I can always choose to stay strong. Even when I feel weak and beaten down, I can choose to get back up, clean myself up, and see the beauty within. I can learn to offer myself self-compassion and grace and know that I did the best that I could in the situations that I was in, and forgive myself for the mistakes that I made and the decisions that caused others pain. It's not easy, but it is possible. There is always a beautiful, colorful rainbow after a storm, and sometimes we need to lift our head and look up to see it. My hope is that no matter what storm or season of life you are in now, that you too can find the strength and the courage to look up and look within to see how strong and beautiful you are always. Allow the treasures to emerge from those tears. I believe in you and you can do it. You can transform your life into a treasure. And this topic of self-compassion is an important one for me because it was extremely difficult for me to find compassion for myself after my choice to have an abortion. I lived with guilt and shame for many years following my abortion experience. I felt like I had a big red scarlet letter A for abortion on my forehead, and I felt that I deserved those feelings for what I had done. But that was a lie. I could find healing, and I did, and that is why I share publicly to offer hope and healing opportunities to others. Recently, I was introduced to next week's guest. Her name is Daphne Smith, and she is the author of the book, What's Your Scarlet Letter? And I knew immediately that I wanted to invite her on the show as a guest, and she agreed to do so. She will be on next week's episode, number 11. Daphne helps people break free from traps and lies, embrace healing and hope, and transform into a life of truth, no matter what they've been through. She helps us recognize our hurts, release our shame, and reclaim our voices. Her story is incredible, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Please subscribe to get notified when it's released, and we love your feedback and are available to answer any questions in our Facebook group, Life is a Treasure Podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode on self-compassion and that it's helped you in some way to find deeper healing for yourself. Remember, how we love and respect ourselves is how we teach others to love and respect us. I'll read that again. How we love and respect ourselves is how we teach others to love and respect us. I love this quote by Louise Hay. Remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. And I'd like to close this episode with some self-compassion affirmations that I hope will inspire you. I am doing the best I can do. I deserve to be loved because I love myself. It is healthy to take time to heal. I am patient with the process. I embrace the best and the worst parts of myself. Change is never easy, but it's easier if I'm easy on myself. It is okay for me to be kind to myself. Respect begins with love. Therefore, I love my entire self. Me time is a healthy gift that I happily give to myself. And I am a soul on a beautiful journey. Until next time, my friends, peace, love, and joy. Thank you so much for listening to Life is a Treasure podcast. As we begin to share our secret stories, others find the courage to start sharing theirs. And this is how the healing begins. So please help us by subscribing, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. And make sure to tag me on Instagram at Michelle Marie with 2 E's, Durand, Durand, with hashtag Life is a Treasure podcast for a chance to get a shout out on the show. Also visit lifeisatreasure.com for all resources mentioned and freebies. And don't forget, come join us and continue the conversations in our free Facebook group, Life is a Treasure podcast. The link will be in the show notes. You can also find my social media links on the website, lifeisatreasure.com. Again, thank you so much for listening. Until next week, peace, love, and joy.